World leaders are throwing a weak and pathetic Donald Trump aside, and they are building their own armies to assert themselves in the absence of a United States security umbrella. Specifically, Europe is absolutely furious at Donald Trump's continuous threats. Donald Trump continuously saying, I'm going to withdraw from NATO, and Europe is not doing enough. And then when Europe tries to step up and focus on its own defense, Donald Trump's like, you better buy our American equipment. And Europe is like, enough. So the Prime Minister of Spain, Pedro Sanchez, stepped forward and he's like, you know what we need to focus on right here? We need to focus on building a European army. Let's just bring this army together right now. We don't need the United States. Let's go. Also, President Zelensky of Ukraine saying, let's just bring together some of the biggest powers in Europe. Ukraine will join. We'll build our own army. And if the United States is going to withdraw from NATO, like Donald Trump keeps on saying, we don't need them. We can be a superpower together. There is strength in numbers. While all of that was going on too, you had tens of thousands, may I say hundreds of thousands of people out in Hungary to cheer on the pro-democracy TISA coalition against Viktor Orban's Fidesz authoritarian pro-Putin coalition. We're 24 hours or so away from the election in Hungary, or less at this point, and the people are out there saying they want to be part of the European Union and they don't want anything to do with Vladimir Putin. They had this mass rally where they were saying, go home Russia, go home Russia. And this follows Donald Trump making post after post saying, everybody vote for Viktor Orban. Hungary, if you want money, if you want that American cash, you better vote Viktor Orban because we'll financially help you. And the people of Hungary are saying, we know your scams. We know your tricks. We know that you, Donald Trump, are just like Putin. You are authoritarian, vile pieces of trash who just want to destroy our country and set us.
The United States of America this morning is rapidly losing respect on the world stage as the President of the United States has become an accelerating lame duck, with world leaders now openly defying him. He, after negotiating this quote-unquote deal with Iran, is saying now it may not actually be the final deal with Iran. World leaders view the President of the United States as weak and embattled after he brought the United States into this war with Iran and left weaker militarily, weaker economically, and weaker just generally in terms of relationships with other nations across the world. And now world leaders see Donald Trump, the President of the United States, as a weak and lame duck American president. And while that does not spell good news for America heading into the last 2 years of his term, the president is getting older, he is weaker, and soon he is going to be a lot more irrelevant. We'll see how soon that happens. Spread the word. Follow along for all the news you need to know about.
Trump and his incompetent friends, Pete Hegseth in particular, have bragged and boasted and bluffed and then blinked and then blinked and then blinked again. All their bluffs were called. They've showcased American weakness and incompetence to a degree that I think no one could have rationally feared. I mean, even to the point where I'd be like the last bit of optimism I think anyone had here was that the military itself is still the sort of military that it befits a superpower, but it, in the clear light of day, even that seems not to be true. I mean, maybe we're not a paper tiger, but we're something close. We just don't have we've almost run out of armaments apparently. We're not very good at minesweeping or defending drones, or I mean, like we don't appear to be cutting edge in the ways that we needed to be for this, and we just seem to have blown through our stockpiles of armaments, right? So we're rationing arms in addition to everything else we're doing. It's terrible.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to yet another reaction video by Saleni. If it's your first time coming across my videos, or if it's your first time seeing me on this platform today, kindly remember to push the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also remember to share it around, because folks, the topics that we discuss on this channel are topics that are worth having a discussion, or rather are topics that are worth having a breakdown, and that's what we all do on this channel. So folks, remember to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and also remember to share it around. So What's good again? So today we are talking about a very critical topic, yeah? And this topic is everybody around the world, or rather world leaders right now, are calling Trump the weakest president ever. Yeah? And is this true? We are about to see that from the videos that I'm going to play for you today. Just pay attention to the videos that I'm going to play for you. You're going to see so many former white Trump supporters crying in regret, expressing how much they really think Trump is a weak president. Others are going as far as calling him a weakling. Yeah. So many videos are here circulating around the media, in TikTok, all over the social media. We've seen so many videos of people expressing their regrets, yeah, on voting for Trump as the president. Many people are right now calling him a coward. So let's take a view of these videos, and as I come back at the end with my commentaries. Thank you.
China told him to his face that that America was decaying. Told him to his face, and he said nothing about it. He said, "Well, we're working together." You know, it's the first time you saw him bow down. Yeah, as I said, that's what happens when Mike meets Mike, or Mike meets a bully, right? The bully always loses. The bully always acquiesces because he can't stand on his own.
Donald Trump just got humiliated on the world stage by German Chancellor Merz as he called Trump out for not having a clue what he's doing in Iran. Now, as you know, Donald Trump has been struggling in Iran, specifically with getting out and getting Iran to make a deal. He has tried everything from military threats, economic threats, and even just suggesting he has a deal and trying reverse psychology. Well, German Chancellor Merz called Donald Trump out, saying he doesn't know what he's doing at all, saying, quote, "It is quite obvious that the Americans have absolutely no coherent strategy whatsoever. And the fundamental problem with these kinds of conflicts is always the same. It's not enough to simply get yourself in. You must also figure out how to get yourself out," unquote. That is absolutely brutal. That is the first time one of our allies has called us out and saying, hey, they don't know what they're doing over there. They have absolutely no plan, which is the case. It's clear Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He has no short-term plan. He has no long-term plan. He's just trying to figure out as he goes along and hopes he ends up with a ballroom in the end.
A dedicated video to Trump's political weakness, and let's just say things have gotten significantly worse for him and the Republican Party, and frankly, the country as a whole, unfortunately. I mean, annualized inflation just hit 4.2% for the first time in over 3 years. It was about 3% when Trump first took office. And now President Trump is bogged down in a costly, unpopular war that has resulted in a more extreme Iran that has realized the full extent of the leverage it has over the global economy. With the Strait of Hormuz still closed, energy prices remain high as everything from fuel to fertilizer causes direct hits to the pocketbooks of Americans. Meanwhile, Trump's authoritarian overreach has also backfired. I mean, his ICE raids have resulted in the separation of countless migrant families and the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Trump's grifts have taken center stage as he uses the White House as just another asset on the Trump balance sheet. And whether you're looking at Trump himself making 3,700 stock trades in Q1 of this year, including in companies that benefit from his moves, or insiders using the Iran war as a pump and dump scheme, Americans see right through this. I mean, this is why Trump is a historically unpopular president. Looking at Trump's approval ratings over time, you see the story of a president burning through his political capital at a rapid pace. I mean, just take a look at his polling averages in the New York Times. You can literally see the story of his descent. I mean, as those early months went on, the story of Trump's second term quickly shifted from a wannabe authoritarian consolidating power into a lame duck president whose toxicity has led to a politically ruined Republican Party and a revitalized opposition. I mean, as you can see here, Trump started off his term with a surprising amount of support, with, I guess, Americans experiencing collective amnesia and seemingly believing his campaign promises. But it became clear pretty quickly that he was lying about reducing costs, lying about his ties to Project 2025, lying about wanting to release the Epstein files, and lying about no new wars. Trump immediately hired multiple authors and contributors to Project 2025, including one of its main architects, Russell Vought. And then Trump unleashed the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, to gut the federal government. Now, as someone with deep knowledge of Project 2025, I saw in real time how Trump was botching its implementation by moving with ferocious incompetence and triggering countless court losses. I mean, my article on day 7 of Trump's second term was literally titled, "Trump's Incompetent Overreach is Backfiring." And it was clear to me from the start where all of this was headed. And back to the New York Times polling averages, you could see during the months of February and March, Trump's political fortunes were changing pretty quickly as Americans watched Trump and his cronies enrich themselves as he unleashed tariffs that unilaterally raised prices on the American people. Then comes the big beautiful bill, which is the largest legislative wealth transfer from the poor to rich in American history. Shortly after that, as you head into the summer, Trump's refusal to release the Epstein files triggered a real fracturing in his base that only worsened into the fall as figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene defected from the president and the House forced a vote to release the files. Then we have the ultimate betrayal of Trump's no new wars promise as we enter 2026, and then the bottom really began to fall out with multiple polls having Trump's approval in mid-30s, some in the low 30s. Underneath Trump's terrible approval numbers, you see what's driving it. Trump is underwater on all key issues. He did this to himself. This is a backlash to his own decisions. Harry Enton at CNN this week found Trump's net approval rating on inflation is negative 50 points in at least 8 polls this year. Trump also has an 80% disapproval rating on gas prices. This is real fundamental weakness on the most important issues facing Americans. Now, I know what the pushback to this often is, that Trump remains really popular with MAGA Republicans, but that is an increasingly shrinking subset of the Republican.
Do you know why Donald Trump is by far the worst president ever? Well, I'm going to try and explain it to you as quickly as I can. He is destroying our economy, the stock market, international relations, consumer confidence, our system of government, the balance of power, judicial independence, Social Security, Medicaid, medical research, airline safety, our national parks, veterans benefits, our education system. He's trampled over our freedom of the press, ended life-saving humanitarian efforts, created havoc throughout our government workforce, enabled incessant lying, is destroying environmental protections, has the least qualified, most unethical administration ever, is letting the measles run wild, has enabled Elon Musk's minions to steal our most sensitive data and store it who knows where, is essentially kidnapping people off the street to be tortured in El Salvador without any due process, has unleashed nonsensical, unnecessary, inflation-igniting tariffs, is whitewashing our history. He's using the White House to make a gargantuan amount of money for himself and his family while helping Putin in every way possible and letting the heroic Ukrainian people suffer, all while inflation continues to grow. It's insane.
Furious world leaders in Europe are done playing nice with Donald Trump, and they are now saying they are ready for war. Donald, you're going to try to call our bluff. These European leaders are saying we are on the brink of World War III and we are ready to fight. And we know how pathetic and weak you are, Donald. And if you thought we were just going to run away from Ukraine and allow your plan with Vladimir Putin to be executed and for you to take over all of Europe, well, you're going to have to take it from our hands. We're going to build an army. We're going to strike back, and we're ready for war if war is going to come across our land and our shores. Let me show you what went down again just over the past 24 to 48 hours. And this video is a continuation of the reporting we did from yesterday morning. A quick reminder. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. As you know, we're covering things that corporate news and really no one else is covering in the detail that it needs to. I mean, there are some good reporters, let me be clear, but corporate news is totally ignoring this stuff. And you know we're under attack from the Trump regime, so hit subscribe. Let me show you what the new head of MI6 had to say. By the way, she's the first female head of MI6. That leadership role is called the C. And here she is giving a powerful speech. Let's play it.
All continue to face the menace of an aggressive, expansionist and revisionist Russia seeking to subjugate Ukraine and harass NATO. I find it harrowing that hundreds of thousands have died, with the toll mounting every day because of Putin's historical distortions and his compromised desire for respect. He is dragging out negotiations and shifting the cost of war onto his own population. But Putin should be in no doubt. Our support is enduring. Alongside the grinding war, Russia is testing us in the grey zone with tactics that are just below the threshold of war. It's important to understand their attempts to bully, fearmonger and manipulate because it affects us all. I'm talking about cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, drones buzzing, airports and bases, aggressive activity in our seas above and below the waves, state-sponsored arson and sabotage, propaganda and influence operations that crack open and exploit fractures within societies. The export of chaos is a feature, not a bug, in this Russian approach to international engagement. And we should be ready for this to continue until Putin is forced to change his calculus. AI-powered robots and drones are brilliant for scaled manufacturing, but devastating on the battlefield. Discoveries that cure disease can also create new weapons. And as states race for tech supremacy, or as some algorithms become as powerful as states, those hyper-personalized tools could become a new vector for conflict and control.
The president of Colombia got everything he wanted. No, he didn't cave, and Trump is a weakling and ridiculous and looks like a fool, and the rest of the world is old Texas Paul. Hope your coffee's as good as mine. I hope it's better. Let's talk about it. Look, Colombia never tried to stop deportations. It wasn't one of their demands. All they demanded was their people stop showing up, shoved in the back of military aircraft, shackled at the hands and feet, not given water, not given food, not allowed to go to the bathroom, treated like frickin' animals. And they got that. They got what they asked for. That's not happening anymore. Trump folded. He did. The reason that Fox and the New York Post and the right-wingers are running headlines that, ooh, Trump's tough, he got what he wanted, is because they're full of shit. And that's what MAGA needs. Needs to be told, they're tough, man, they're tough. That's bullshit. They're weaklings. Trump's a weakling. Colombia got everything they asked for.
It's not over yet. It's not over. Trump is not as powerful as you think he is. I know things seem kind of fucked because of what happened to Renee Nicole Good, but there is hope, okay? Trump is very weak. He's the weakest he's been in his entire presidency, okay? He's losing in the courts. They're checking him. He's losing on topics like immigration. He's losing on topics like the National Guard. He's just not winning because his actions in those fields are clearly unlawful. He's losing in Congress. Congress was able to pass the Epstein File Transparency Act with the veto-proof majority, forcing him to sign it. Okay, and then his failure to release those files make him look like a pedophile, whether he is or isn't. You know, it just makes him look bad. Okay, and not only that, Congress is passing war powers resolutions to prevent things like what happened in Venezuela. Okay, he's losing Congress. He's losing in courts. And now he's losing the American people with what happened in Minnesota. The tables have been turned and his power is shrinking. Now, I'm not saying this isn't going to make him less dangerous. In fact, it will make him more dangerous because he'll be pulling at every lever of power. So let's all stand together. Don't let this orange man intimidate us. Come November, let's just go and vote blue. Make it a blue tsunami, so that we can have a majority Democrat Congress, both in the House and Senate, and so that we can start impeachments on not just Donald Trump, but on every member of his cabinet, okay? So I have hope. Keep your head up.
What is really disturbing is that Trump is just dumb. Liberals were right. He's just dumb. And I have heard this firsthand from people that I know that have met with him recently. And they all convey the same thing, which is he is just stupid and old. He just doesn't know what's going on. Like, I can't really repeat all the details of these conversations. I can't get too specific, but it's not like a gimmick. He's not trying to be cute. He's not trying to be funny. He is mentally deteriorating. If he was ever smart, he isn't anymore. This is a 100-year-old man that's in control of the country, and no one can tell him no. So I said this on Alex Jones last year. I said, we're just stuck. We're just stuck with this guy. Everybody voted for this asshole, and now we're stuck with him for the next 4 years, and he is going to ruin everything. He is sucking all the oxygen out of the room. He is preventing any real right-wing energy from being incubated during this period. And we're just stuck. We just have to deal with the consequences and try to find a way to pick up the pieces in a couple of years when the Republican primary starts, but it's pretty grim. There just simply is no plan. And what you're hearing is these like secondhand stories from people like Tucker Carlson and others, and they just talk about, all we can really do is speculate what is going through his head based on conversations that these people are having with him. And nobody knows. And you just want to say, what is going on in the country? First, it was Joe Biden. That was bad enough. We had Joe Biden for 4 years. And honestly, the difference is at least we knew he was demented. That's the difference. And it's a sad state of affairs when you say that we have two senile, demented presidents. They're both retarded. They're both wrecking the country. But you say the silver lining of one of them is that at least we knew it. At least everyone knew. I shouldn't even say that. That's actually the sad part. For 4 years, the Democrats were telling us, no, he's good, he's fine. Oh, that's old Joe Biden. Remember when Jim Carrey was playing him on Saturday Night Live and they were portraying him like he was Tom Cruise? Jim Carrey was wearing the sunglasses and doing the finger guns. And liberals, this was serious like 1984 level propaganda. They were trying to convince themselves that Joe Biden was like some kind of Tom Cruise, all-American maverick figure. It's like, look at his gait. Look at the way he walks. He's going to die. So we had that for 4 years. Half the country was deluded about all of it. And then the other half of the country was talking about him shitting his pants and farting every day.
Okay, so on this DC thing going on, this so-called federal takeover, I want to separate fact from fiction, truth from hysteria a little bit. Much of the hysteria is intended to be created or has been created by Donald Trump. He wants you to get hysterical. So he's making it sound like there's this federal government invasion and takeover of Washington, D.C. because it makes him look tough. He wants everybody to be scared of him. Here's the truth. According to I think it was 1974 Home Rule Act or whatever, the President of the United States, under a certain emergency, can take over the D.C. Police Department for 30 days. He's done that. Now, in order for that to be extended, Congress has to agree past the 30 days. So he has to alert Congress that he's done it, and then Congress has to agree if he's going to extend beyond 30 days. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Anyway, he's also deploying the D.C. National Guard. Now, this makes it sound like this is some kind of an invasion of the federal government. A couple things to keep in mind. First off, the federal government owns Washington, D.C. There is a mayor and there is basically a city council because of home rule. Again, something Congress put in place in the 70s, but the federal government still is in charge and owns Washington, D.C. So what he's doing with the police is according to the law that was passed to give D.C. the ability to have their own city council and mayor. This was the whole thing on January 6th, where some of these kind of January 6th truthers say, like, the mayor or Nancy Pelosi didn't deploy the guard. They don't have control. The only person with control is the President of the United States, Donald Trump on January 6th and Donald Trump today. So if he is going to actually destroy home rule and say basically there is no self-governance of Washington, D.C., Congress would have to agree to that. And frankly, you'd have to cross the 60-vote threshold in the Senate. I don't see that happening. So he's operating within the existing laws. Now, is that good or bad? I don't like the optics of it. Actually, DC crime has been declining. It's still too high. But what he's trying to do is to convince people that he's this big, huge guy that's now, invading Washington, D.C. And that's literally the furthest thing from the truth. So be concerned about this because, again, this is all Donald Trump's thing. He did it in LA too, where he's trying to make us numb to, deployments of the DC National Guard or any National Guard, the federalization of the Guard, which would take another couple minutes to explain. But basically, when Trump activates them and not the mayor or not the governor of a state, they actually are federal troops. They are not National Guard anymore. The DC Guard is the exception of that. And so, yeah, I think it's a pretty bad day, but also let's not feed into this Donald Trump is a big scary guy narrative because of this. Donald Trump is actually a little weak, tiny man who has to do things like this to feel in any way safe and secure.
So ladies and gentlemen, this topic has a lot of people around the world, talking and discussing and debating about how the presidency in America right now is, For so many people, they are saying that in history, America has the weakest president ever right now, and that's Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, whether you are a Trump supporter, a critic, or somewhere in the middle, this conversation is becoming impossible to ignore because it's not just happening in America anymore, It's becoming a global discussion whereby so many people around the world are talking about it, So many people are saying that Trump is a weak president. And why are these people saying this, One of the biggest criticism aimed at Trump is consistency. Critics argue that strong leaders project a clear message to both allies and adversaries. So, ladies and gentlemen, we know for a long time during this Trump regime, he is someone that is really, really not consistent, especially with the wars that he has started. He is someone that makes a decision and later on changes the decision. And he is also someone who is so boastful about power, using military to show his strength, And it creates uncertainty about where a country stands, where America stands on major international issues. Because one time he's giving this stand on something and the other minute he has changed his mind completely. Another criticism revolves around relationships with allies. Many foreign policy experts believe that a country's strength isn't just measured by its military power, but also by its ability to maintain trust and cooperation with long-time partners. Critics argue that frequent public disputes with allies can weaken America's influence on the global stage. We have seen him also on the G7 just recently, guys. So many people have debates on the stand on his stand on the G7 meeting that happened recently in France. And honestly, that's where conversations get interesting. But because people are so in denial, other people still believe that Trump is so honest, or rather he is the best president that the world has right now. These are the people that aren't awoke, and these are the people that don't accept what is happening in the world right now. Because Trump is really leading America into its failure slowly by slowly, day in, day out, with the decisions that he is making. Also, there is a issue on the global conflicts. Critics say that during periods of international tension, they expect clear and decisive leadership from the United States of America. Some believe that Trump's response to major events have at times appeared reactive rather than part of a long-term strategy. He's always out there boasting on Twitter, saying all kind of stuffs, posting all kind of posts. Critics, like he's making even humor yeah, using AI. He's also seen out there abusing other people, yeah. But deeply, we all know that Trump is a weak leader. That is something that many people won't accept. His only power is using military to threaten. Yeah, for his decisions, whatever he's doing in America right now. For recently, we've seen him trying to put up a ballroom. Yet America is in a crisis. Again, recently, he has also staged a UFC fight at the State House, while America is still under crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, the economy of America is sinking. But what is he doing about the economy? What is he doing to change this narrative? Because a lot of people are spreading negativity about America. Right now, they view America as a weak country. And I don't think that anyone can seriously argue that Donald Trump lacks confidence. If anything, confidence has always been one of the character traits that he portrays outside here. During his speeches or anything that he talks about, he portrays confidence. The stronger criticism isn't that he is afraid to act. It's that leadership at the highest level requires consistency. Regardless of how you talk, the courage he displays outside there is not something that he has. It's just the courage of speaking, because he knows, he is afraid that people will always judge him to being the weakest president. But it is something that we all know is true. Yeah. Many of his critics believe those areas are where he falls short, and that's why they use the word like weak. Yeah. But to be fair, Trump supporters completely reject this argument. The MAGA supporters will always completely reject this argument. They say that Trump is doing exactly what he promised. Yeah, they argue that he is putting America's interest first. And is that true? Refusing to follow traditional political norms and avoiding getting America dragged into unnecessary foreign conflicts. And is that true though? We have seen the economy is sinking. Yeah. America is always in a war and out of a war, in a war and out of a war, like in different wars every time. Yeah, America is dragged into unnecessary wars always. Like we have seen in his regime, America dealt, or rather has been involved into so many wars. Yeah, Iran, yeah, Iraq. Like guys, America is always into fights. And that's why this debate is so divided, because so many Trump supporters will just not accept the fact. But it's not for us to unblind the blind. We just let them sink, yeah, into the river of being blind, yeah, to matters like this. Because if really you are woke and you know what's happening around the world, you will see whatever is happening in America or whatever Trump is doing to America is really something that's going to put them into years of damage. Yeah. And the economy itself is a factor that shows that America itself is going down. At this point, America is going down. And what I find fascinating is how people define strength. Yeah. Others can define strength as the use of military power. And does it mean building alliances and maintaining diplomatic relationship, or rather, does it mean avoiding wars? Yeah? What does strength mean for a country? Depending on your answer, you'll probably have a different opinion of Donald Trump, and that's true. But ladies and gentlemen, we need a certainty that you guys need to see. And it's time for you guys to finally be awake and see that the ruling style of Trump is just using his words of threat, using his confidence style of talking just to prove that he is the strongest. But deep down, we all know that he is a weak president. He is a weak president, ladies and gentlemen. And I would like to know down in the comments, do you really think that Trump is a weak president, or the judgments are coming out too much? Yeah, people are doing so much on judging Trump. Or do you think that he is so confident and America is so strong right now? That's the real question to ask yourself. So down in the comments, let's have this conversation, guys. Do you think that America is strong and Trump is really strong? Or do you think that Trump is weak and America is falling? Until the next video, peace.